Good evening and salutations, my Beyond the Gates fans. It's going to be essentially kind of a different review because I ain't taking any notes. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a off the cuff kind of video. Gonna forget some stuff, some details or whatever, but I want to talk about this episode because one, I've been wanting to talk about some of these episodes for a hot minute. I just have not had time to sit there and do it. So I usually do it in the live streams. But since I'm not doing a live stream tonight, save that for tomorrow. Um, I want to sit there and talk about it anyway. And I want to start off with Smitty and Martin, right? Now, if you go to any of the chats or whatever, there's a large amount of hate, and I hate using that word. I always feel like it's extreme when it's talking about soap operas, but towards Martin Smitty. There's a saying, opposites attract, right? And at one point, I actually thought that this is going to work out in a sense, right? Because like Martin says, they both bring something different to the table. Martin is more, Smitty is more of a laid back, kind of see where it goes. Martin is more like, let's just find a way to fix the problem, right? I've been snipped to saying that Martin's a very control freak. He finds out about the pictures with Terrell. Terrell lashes out, says some stuff that, I mean, yeah, it was hurtful, right? And he basically was like, listen, you can't fix this. Let me fix this. Let me handle this because you're just going to make the situation worse. Smitty got that. Smitty understood. Martin, on the other hand, Martin's the type of person who wants to sit there and take control. I don't know if that's trauma from whatever that happened or that's just his instinct. His whatever. And I get that to some extent. When somebody's hurting, you want to do whatever you can to sit there and try to fix the situation. I get that. This is why I always sit there and say sometimes Martin's approach, while it can come across as being a control freak, his heart is in the right place. He just goes about it in a way where it steps over. It's like, bro, you can't do this. So he gets upset. He leaves. Samantha kind of calms the situation down a little bit. There's one point he basically was like, you made my life worse. And yeah, that's obviously unfair. And I know people sit there and say, well, he's a child. It's still hurtful, right? And so Martin's upset. He's like, why would you say something like that? I've always tried to, do whatever to make your life a lot easier. I took you out of, I didn't want to put you in private school or put you in regular school. It wasn't necessary. Probably didn't work out, but he tried to do the right thing. Ultimately, the stuff that Smitty's saying doesn't really matter because Smitty's like, let him just handle it. We got to be there for him. And on some level, I understood where Martin was coming from because he's getting. This is what I'm saying. Like, this is a reporter that's not there telling him this, and he chose to drop the story for a future scoop. But Martin's like, maybe if you had told me about this before, we could have probably sat down and handled this a little bit differently instead of me being blindsided by it. Because again, most men, we are fixers in a sense. And I personally hate when I find out something that could have been prevented or we could have talked about later on. But with that being said, he goes upstairs. Martin just walks out the door, and Smitty's like, we need to talk about this. What are you doing? Martin's going to do what Martin's going to do. He got that going on. Next, we're going to sit there and talk about Danny. Because I feel bad for. I mean, yes, I feel bad for Danny. Obviously, I get that. But I also feel bad for Andre. I've been with a few women that's had what we'll call Danny moments, right? Where it's like, eventually it gets down there, and Danny is just, she's been drinking, and she's trying to do this whole modeling thing, and you can just tell that she's just going through it, right? So eventually, Andre gets there, and she's just like piss drunk at this point. Takes her in bed, gives her some aspirins or whatever, because that hangover is. Think about it. Gets her in bed, and it's a nice moment. It's a nice moment. But she wakes up, and she's like, "No, I want to show you this." She was like, "I want to show you this." She's been calling and texting me like, "I want to show you this whole thing." So she does this whole modeling thing. Then she starts kissing them and everything like that. Andre's there. He's there for emotional comfort. He's there for physical comfort and everything. I wonder how long that's gonna last, though. Because I feel like obviously Danny's the hurt ninja party, but how long is that gonna be before it starts to wear on Andre? Because again, like I said, I've been in his shoes in the sense you can just tell like there's a point where it's like Andre has that look like, what the did I get myself into? Yeah, you could be a nice and caring and sweet and kind guy, but being put in those situations, it could be a little taxing. Um, Diego is getting a little, yeah, he's getting a little. It's almost like he doesn't understand how Vanessa works. Vanessa's like, yo, listen, we can do our little thing or whatever, but you're getting attached. Diego's like, yo, listen, they just got a client that just didn't book a room or whatever. You wanna use it? I was gonna call her Laura, I think Lauren. That's like, nah, I'm good. Brings up Joey, she shuts it down. It's getting to a point. It's like, you know what this is about. Doug is at the hospital. Shanice is worried that he's doing too much. Doug is trying to avoid gambling by working, and maybe he wants to work to pay back Joey faster. But I'm like, you almost unalive somebody because you were too focused on gambling, and now you're doing too much. You're not Superman, bro. You know, I get that he wants to kick the system by working a lot to avoid a potential another mistake. You're just going to create more of a problem being too tired and create another mistake. But, you know, Randy gets there. Randy gets a call from Joey to kind of rope him back into the game. But Randy gets there. He just wants to be a friend. And hearing Doug Smith saying, "Yo, I can't be no more online, no more." He apologized to Randy for being put in that spot. But Randy understands and talks him out. Like I said, I just feel like Randy's going to get hurt at some point. Now Doug gets down to the gym, and Vanessa's like, "Yo, listen, maybe you could sit there and help him out and spot him." And he was like, "I don't know, I got a lot of clients, I'm kind of busy right now," but she insists. Eventually, she gets away, and I don't know why she was so insistent on having Diego train him or help him work out. I feel like there's a reason for that. Maybe it's some sort of punishment or something. Now, Naomi and Bill, she's like, "I'm not doing the case." And at first, she tries to hide her reasons why. Obviously, it comes down to the health scare. and she opens up, and it's again, it's another nice moment. Maybe this is another reason why I decided to do the review. He misses the girls, and he's at a point. He's like, listen, I'd rather see you in court, going back and forth, than not to see you at all. And why Naomi's like, I may never forgive you for what you did to Danny. That doesn't mean that the love is gone. They don't hug, but it's like you feel like they want to hug, but they're not hugging in a sense. Told Jacob everything towards the end of her day. I'm sitting there like, what's next? What's next? So, any right shit, that's what's next. Oh, and towards the end, when Mike got the news, he was all happy and celebrating and everything like that. And long story short, Bill fired his ass. And why he did sit there and say, like, listen, um, partners, they agree, but he pretty much like, I'm the one that brought it up. Because ultimately he was like, he's a liability. No matter how many cases he's winning, how much money he's not there bringing, or whatever, he's not worth whatever future potential scandal that he can wind up getting. And just the reputation alone of still having somebody like that there is already a problem. Not to mention, again, I remember that episode with you just saying sleazy joke after sleazy joke after sleazy joke, and it just like, bro, it was just uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. And this isn't like me snipping being like, oh, I'm a feminist or whatever, but like, listen, I have my raunchy comments from time to time. I always have them. But certain things is just like, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like the stuff you was saying was like, come on, bro. You know? I feel like that's about it. I can't think of anything else. But while we get some more time, I'll definitely sit there and review more of these episodes. But um, that was a good one. That was a good one. Here's the thing. I will sit there and say this much about the Gates because one of my amazing subscribers, Janet, was sitting there saying like the fizzle with this show died, and I always sit there and think about that, and I'm just like, was the fizzle ever really there? It was new. It was exciting, but it wasn't exciting because the episodes was like super action packed or super amazing. It was exciting because it was new. And it's not to sit there and say that the episodes are bad or anything like that. And I've been sitting there telling people, listen, it's been nearly a month. Gotta give some time. I've learned from watching General Hospital and just constantly. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a year where General Hospital was. Hmm. I stand by every word that I said when I was like every day that I said that Days of Our Lives is better. I meant every word of it. And what I've realized about soap operas, and I mean just all of them across the board, is that even when the episodes aren't super amazing, there's always pockets of stuff within the episode that was actually really good. Hell, I wish I had time to sit there and do a review on Y&R because that was good too. But I guess I'll save that for tomorrow. We'll talk about that. Anyway, I mean the point is that I've realized that with this show, even when it's not super great, super amazing, there's always pockets of stuff that's interesting to talk about. So I know people are sitting there waiting for Sweeps Week. I'm gonna put it this way: Sweeps Week should be every day, right? It should be every day. It shouldn't take a month before it's like, okay, this is where all the good stuff is gonna go. Because then, like after May, then it's like, what? We're just gonna take a break until November? I don't know if that's how soap operas used to go, but if so, I don't know how they last so long. I think there's value in almost every single episode. There's certain episodes I choose not to watch, like standalone episodes. And it's here's the thing: it's rare when an episode is really bad. Like people could sit there and say, "Oh, this episode sucked. It wasn't really that good. It wasn't really that good, but there was some good stuff in it." There's very rare times where I will sit there and say for any soap opera, even B&B, where it's bad, where it's just like is damn near unwatchable. There's been episodes of General Hospital where it's been unwatchable, but those are rare. So I don't know. I think that's just how the soap opera is going to be to some extent. You know, um, for better or worse. But these soap operas have good moments in them, and I think that's something that we need to kind of appreciate and kind of look at it a little bit differently. And again, that's for all of them. Shows work a little bit differently than soap operas, and that's I'll just sit there and say that you know, TV show is gonna get you those jam packed episodes because they're not worried about doing it every day. So you may have 10 episodes, and 8 of them are great because they can really bring it. Soap operas kind of run on a little bit of a different schedule in a sense, and it's weird. It's something that I think Samuel taught me. So shout out to Samuel. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have. I'll be back doing live streams tomorrow, usual time. You know how we do. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.